Every day here on CNN's flagship morning show, we are trying to lay out deep insight in the major historic shifts in this election. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enten is here with what might be, or up until this point, was one of the key, if not the key voting bloc in this election, the so-called double haters, people who didn't like either Donald Trump or President Biden. What's happening with them?
Yeah, all right. So let's take a look at double haters. As you pointed out, these are folks who dislike Joe Biden as well as Donald Trump. And I want you to look at their voting patterns, who they want for president. Now, let's go back to June. What we saw was 28% of those folks were going for Joe Biden compared to 19% who said they were going for Donald Trump. Now that Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee, look at her support among them. Look at this. 53% say Kamala Harris. Look at that jump. That's a jump of 25 points. Donald Trump has gone in the other direction, down to 11 points. And now we're looking at, what is that, John? That is a 42-point advantage among the folks who dislike Joe Biden and Donald Trump for Kamala Harris compared to just that 9-point advantage that Joe Biden had back in June. This, of course, is a substantial portion of the electorate. Before Kamala Harris got in, this was going to be the group that was going to determine one way or another, and it may still be. And if it is, Kamala Harris has this massive advantage over this very key bloc in the electorate.
I just want to point out, again, what we have seen in the last few weeks are these big shifts in polling you don't normally see. Right now, at least. But that's a giant increase in no time.
That is a giant increase in no time. It turns out picking a nominee who's actually pretty close to having an even net favorability rating, that is favorable minus unfavorable, is a pretty good thing as opposed to one that has a net negative favorability as Joe Biden
All right.
did.
What more do we know about some of these people, these double haters, I had to be careful how I said that, who have shifted their preference?
Yeah, so, you know, who are these double haters who have shifted their preference? This is, again, a key group of voters. These are people who somewhat disapprove of Joe Biden's job as president, somewhat disapprove, and this is in the key battleground states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Look at the advantage that Kamala Harris has with this group. Look at this. She's at 55%. Donald Trump is just at 36%. And this was a key block of voters back in the 2022 midterms. Normally, when you see a president with a disapproval rating well north of 50%, you would think his party was in major trouble. But Democrats actually won that block by 4 points in a close race for the House Democrats did. Look at Kamala Harris's advantage now, though. It's 19 points, well more than that 4 points that the House Democrats had back in 2022. And so, again, you're wondering, how is it that Kamala Harris is doing so well despite the fact that Joe Biden is so unpopular? It's because those people who are lukewarm on him, they don't like him, but they don't hate him, they are going in heavy numbers for Kamala Harris in those key battleground states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
So there's this bizarre story this morning that we probably should be talking about more, which is that RFK Jr., the New York Times reporting, has been doing, the Post reporting, has been doing outreach to the Harris campaign, wanting the two to meet. Maybe he would endorse her in return for a job. That aside, where have RFK Jr.'s voters, so far as they exist, been going the last few weeks?
Yeah, that is truly a bizarre campaign. And, you know, we spoke about this earlier. 2 weeks ago, we noted that RFK Jr.'s support was falling through the floor. And the question is, who are his voters going to? So these are people who supported RFK Jr. in July and now back. Look at this. 39% of those who backed RFK Jr. in July are now backing Kamala Harris, way more than the 20% who are backing Donald Trump. Now, he's still getting 39%, but if you're only holding on to 2/5 of your support from July, you're falling through the floor, which RFK Jr. is doing. But the key nugget here is Kamala Harris is picking up a slew of those voters who were disaffected, who said they were going to vote for third party. They're no longer voting for third party. By a 2-to-1 margin, they're voting for, say they're going to vote for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. And that is a big reason why in that Pew Research Center poll that came out yesterday, Harris was up by 1 as opposed to Joe Biden being down by 4 back in the month of July.
As I said, it is so important to have you here explaining these historic shifts that we are seeing, at least right now in this campaign.
You know, this was the most boring campaign, at least in my lifetime, through June. Since then, it has been absolutely nutter butter, and we're seeing these shifts that we really never see. It's something exciting to see from a political analyst standpoint that I am in.
From a pure data perspective, understand. Harriet, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kate.
Joining us right now, Democratic strategist Julie Roginski and former senior advisor to the Trump 2016 campaign, Jason Osborne. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. So let's, Julie, you've got the reporting. We'll talk about RFK if we have time at the end. You've got the reporting and the analysis that you heard from Harry that how Harris is making inroads, where Harris is making inroads in terms of the double haters. It kind of showing the contours of the momentum that we've already been seeing in the polling. One place that Donald Trump has remained ahead, though, before and is currently is on the economy. And Harris is now going to be rolling out this it's a big moment for her. She's rolling out this economic plan tomorrow. How much is riding on it then?
Well, first of all, Harris is catching up to him on the economy. There's some polls that actually show her being more trusted. But look, it is the #1 issue in the country, despite what Donald Trump said at his press conference yesterday. And it's something that she has to address. How much she has to go into detail is a different story. Look, she owns the Biden-Harris record, good and bad. Right now, it's good. The market's up. Inflation's down. Unemployment, we're basically full employment. I mean, all indicators are great for her. And so that's her record. I mean, that's something that she can run on easily and something that she can defend easily, something Trump is going to attack, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's something that belongs to her. I don't think she needs to go into too much detail because the proof is not. I don't, because she's living it, right? The last 4 years are what her record is. And if you want more of the same, that's what you're going to get with her, hopefully. And that's what she basically has to say. Look, so much of this, everybody wants to talk about policy, but so much of these elections are about personality.
That's very true.
And so, does she need to go into detail about CPI and all these other, minute details? I don't think so. I think she needs to state a broad set of principles and then talk about how she's going to address those issues in a very concise way and not really go into too much detail. She doesn't need to.
I find that interesting. I mean, Jason, what do you think of that? Not going into detail might be a good thing. Saying more of the same might be a good thing for Kamala Harris on the campaign trail.
I'm a little bit shocked, quite frankly. I mean, I think if they want to run on the last 4 years and the economy being great as something that's going to convince voters to support them, all for it. Because the reality is that costs, while they have been coming down the last few months, they're still way higher than they were 4 years ago. I mean, we're still having this housing crisis where people are paying thousands of dollars more per month in rent because they can't afford a house because the mortgage rates are too high. In groceries, I mean, I know that Kamala is going to be talking about price gouging, et cetera, but they're not looking at the bigger picture in terms of, the supply chain and how everything that the government does influences the prices of each step of the way in the process. And so, yeah, you can go after corporations for price gouging, but how are you going to stop, the increasing costs or the elevated costs for actually delivering the food to the shelves in the grocery stores? I mean, that's a big chunk of price there as well. And so I think what they have to do, what Kamala has to do, is she does have to go into detail. And for once, we'd like to see some more recognition that, hey, you are feeling the crunch at the grocery store, at the gas pump, in your homes, in everyday life, not sitting there telling us how the economy is great, because we all live it. We all know that the economy is not great right now.
One thing, and Julie was getting at this, and Jason, I want to play it for both of you, but it has been clear in polling and just logic dictates that the economy is everything. It affects everyone's lives. It affects everything, every aspect of your life. And that is why the economy remains the #1 issue for voters. And then you have what Donald Trump said yesterday on the campaign trail about the economy. Let me play this.
We're talking about a thing called the economy. They wanted to do a speech on the economy. A lot of people are very devastated by what's happened with inflation and all of the other things. So we're doing this as a intellectual speech. You're all intellectuals today. They say it's the most important subject. I'm not sure it is.
Just casting doubt that the economy is the most important subject, Jason. I mean, do you share the concern of people like Nikki Haley that if Donald Trump doesn't reset, you have a problem?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, that the reality is the last 3 weeks for Trump have not been good. I mean, you can't sugarcoat any of it, right? And I think what is encouraging is actually that now, this week, even on this show, we're actually talking about policies, not actually, something that Trump has said about somebody, and it's a little bit refreshing in a way. I don't want to sit here and guess what he was trying to mean. I mean, I know that in his mind, the economy is important, but immigration is also important, crime's important, and so I think moving forward, with more policy statements coming out from Kamala's campaign, then we're going to see, hopefully more issue-specific discussions on the Trump side. and for him to talk about what exactly he's going to do moving forward, beyond, some of the little nuggets that he keeps sharing here and there.
Yeah, I mean, we could get a few or a lot of more of those little nuggets when he holds his press conference later, which we know we have examples of what happened last time, which there were a lot of false claims being made that we know is Donald Trump staying true to Donald Trump. Does that mean reset, or does that mean this is what you get? We'll find out together. It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much.